Scandal built the Hollywood sign, but not even the tabloids dared touch this secret. Behind the glitz, some of Golden Age Hollywood's most famous men did whatever it took to survive, including selling far more than a screen test. Think you know the darkest corners of Tinseltown? Think again. What if the matinee idol your grandmother adored once hustled his way down Sunset just to keep the lights on? Are you ready to have your illusions shattered? Because number 4 on this list will change how you see old Hollywood forever. Rock Hudson. Let's start with the shocker. Rock Hudson, Hollywood's granite jaw, dreamboat, the definition of American masculinity. Long before he was America's heartthrob, Rock Hudson was just Roy Fitzgerald, a broke truck driver in Illinois who made his way to Los Angeles with nothing but ambition and a pretty face. But ambition doesn't pay the rent. According to several biographers and more than a few whispers from Tinseltown insiders, Hudson's first gigs weren't just bit parts in studio lots. He worked the circuit of exclusive parties, private gatherings where young, desperate actors offered companionship to Hollywood's rich and powerful in exchange for opportunities or a roof over their heads. Hudson's rise wasn't an accident. He fell under the wing of notorious agent Henry Wilson, who specialized in discovering fresh-faced men straight off the bus. Hudson was groomed for stardom, but the unspoken rule in Wilson's world was that nothing came free. The lines between hustling and networking blurred, and Hudson played the game. This side of his story rarely makes the fan magazines. But in the shadowy economy of 1950s Hollywood, survival meant bending the rules and sometimes your dignity. Rock Hudson's legacy is more than just a leading man. He was living proof that the Hollywood dream was often built on desperate deals and secret trades. The real story? It's far grittier and far more fascinating than the studios ever admitted. Scotty Bowers now. Let's talk about the man who built a business on Hollywood's best-kept secrets. Scotty Bowers. Scotty wasn't just a hustler. He was the entire phone book. Starting out as a gas station attendant on Hollywood Boulevard in the late 1940s, Bowers quickly became the go-to fixer for the town's most desperate and discreet needs. His full-service memoir dropped bombshells that rewrote everything we thought we knew about Golden Age stars, actors, producers, even studio heads. Scotty matched them with the company they craved for the right price. Bowers wasn't just working the scene, he was the scene. Dozens of hopeful young men, many aspiring actors, passed through his little empire, hoping one well-paying evening could cover their rent or buy a shot at the big-time names. Scotty named them all from matinee idols. 2 serious actors who wore tuxedos by day and hustled for survival by night. And if you think he's just spinning tales, consider this. Plenty of Hollywood memoirs and biographies, even the ones that avoid direct scandal, corroborate his wildest claims. Bowers changed the face of Hollywood's hidden history. He didn't just survive the shadows. He illuminated them. Scotty's world was a world where desperate men turned necessity into an industry. And behind every famous smile, you had to wonder who paid the price for their dream. Ramon Navarro. The story of Ramon Navarro is a true Hollywood tragedy. Born José Ramón Gil Sango, this silent film icon shot to fame as the brooding, mysterious Latin lover. But long before the stardom and velvet tuxedos, Navarro's early years in Hollywood were all about survival. He was young, beautiful, and desperately poor in a city that chewed up dreams for breakfast. Rumor, and more than a few credible biographies, suggest Navarro did what many young, hopeful men did in the era. He took private gigs to keep afloat. Navarro's world was an underground of shadowy deals, late-night phone calls, and secret sponsors. For the right sum, he provided company to Hollywood's elite, men who could make or break a career with a single word. These were not the gigs you put on a resume, but in the brutal economics of early Hollywood, they were the only ones that paid. Later in life, Navarro would become a cautionary tale. His tragic murder at the hands of 2 young men he met under the most unfortunate circumstances exposed the risks and reality of the double life so many lived. What does Navarro's story teach us? That glamour often has a price, and sometimes the biggest stars are the ones who had to pay the most to get there. The silver screen never looked so cold. George Nader. George Nader's journey from struggling, unknown to leading man was paved with more than just auditions. Friends with Rock Hudson and part of the infamous Henry Wilson stable, Nader's early days were marked by the same mix of hope, desperation, and behind closed doors, transactions that defined much of post-war Hollywood's underbelly. Gossip swirled. For years that Nader, before he caught his break, worked the same party scene as Hudson, attending exclusive events where good looks could be bartered for access, opportunity, or just enough cash to make it through the week. Nader was more than just another pretty face. He was a survivor in a system that demanded as much off-screen as it did on. Hollywood's power brokers made the rules, and young men like Nader paid the toll. Some historians argue that Nader's career only took off after a series of fortunate introductions. At these notorious gatherings, he played the game, and for a while the game rewarded him. Nader's later life was haunted by secrets. He became Rock Hudson's confidant, and some even say his lover, always balancing on the razor's edge between Hollywood's expectations and his own survival. Nader's story is a lesson in the real currency of old Hollywood, where ambition, desperation, and the right connections meant everything and nobody came out clean. Salmano's face was on every teenage bedroom wall in America, but his path to stardom was more desperate than anyone guessed. Before his breakout in Rebel Without a Cause, Mino was another broke kid trying to make it in Los Angeles, a city that could eat you alive before breakfast. Biographers and old Hollywood insiders whisper that Sal hustled on the city's hidden circuit, taking private gigs and company calls to pay the bills when the auditions dried up. He was talented, driven, and ready to do whatever it took. Mano's secret double life was part open secret, part tragedy. Even after fame found him, the darkness followed. He couldn't escape the shadow economy he once relied on, and those early experiences haunted him. His murder, shrouded in mystery, only amplified the rumors that had followed him for years. Sal's journey wasn't just about a boy making good. It was about what it cost to survive Hollywood's ugliest realities. Mano's story is a testament to the price of ambition in a city that worshipped youth and beauty, but offered precious little mercy to those who didn't already belong. Sometimes the brightest stars come from the darkest streets, and their stories remind us just how high the cost of survival can be. Montgomery Clift's face was the very definition of brooding intensity, and his raw vulnerability lit up every frame he ever touched. But there's a reason Cliff felt so real on screen. His private life was filled with the kind of hardship and hustle that left scars no makeup artist could hide. Before the movie sets and magazine covers, Cliff was just another hungry actor in New York and Los Angeles. A world where good looks, where currency and desperation was the rule, not the exception. Rumors have circled for decades that Cliff, always running from poverty and personal demons, sometimes found himself in situations where his company came with a price tag. According to friends and insiders, there were late-night visits, special arrangements, and deals that no one dared write down. It wasn't about pleasure, it was survival, plain and simple. His reputation for emotional honesty may have made him a superstar, but that same openness meant he wore every hardship, every compromise in his haunted eyes. Hollywood loved to romanticize Cliff's suffering, but behind the myth was a young man forced to make impossible choices. He wasn't alone. His story echoes through every backlot and casting couch in town. But few had the courage or the heartbreak to play both sides as convincingly as Cliff. If his life proved anything, it's that the golden age was paved with broken promises, and sometimes the only way to stay in the game was to bet everything you had, including yourself. Anthony Perkins. Long before Anthony Perkins was scaring the world as Norman Bates in Psycho, he was just another anonymous hopeful, struggling to keep his head above water in the predatory ocean of 1950s Hollywood. Perkins had the classic looks, the shy smile, the nervous charm, the sense that he was always keeping something back, and according to multiple biographers and the always unforgiving Hollywood rumor mill, what he kept back was a period in his life where he hustled to survive. In the days before stardom, Perkins ran in the same circles as other young actors on this list. Broke, ambitious, and willing to take on party work or special arrangements for extra cash. The casting couch wasn't just for anything. There was a whole underground market for young men desperate enough to barter their dignity for a shot at the screen. Perkins was a survivor, and like so many others, he learned that the right party or the right introduction could change everything overnight. His friendships, romances, and secrets all blurred together, creating a tangled web that he spent his career trying to keep out of the headlines. Even as he became a household name, the rumors about his early days never really died. For Perkins, the real horror wasn't the shower scene in Psycho, it was the price he paid